Hi guys, nice to meet you today. I would like to read you information from the trailhead.com Salesforce training course, user management control, what your users can access. I think this information is very important. I would like to study it with you together, and it will help us in the future to understand the system more deeply. And I hope it will be useful for you to listen to it, not only to read, because some of us have musical ears. Okay. Uh, Levels of the data access. You can configure access to data in Salesforce at four main levels. Organization. At the highest level, you can secure access to your organization by maintaining a list of authorized users, setting passwords, policies, and limiting login access to certain hours and certain locations. Objects. Object level security providers and provides the simplest way to control which users have access to which data. By setting permissions on a particular type of object, you can prevent a group of users from creating, viewing, editing, or deleting any records of that object. For example, you can use object permissions to ensure that interviewers can view positions and job applications, but not edit or delete them. Fields. You can use field level security to restrict access to certain fields, even for objects a user has access to. For example, you can make the salary field in a position object invisible to interviewers, but visible to hiring managers and recruiters. So let's repeat the last question. You can make the salary field in a position object invisible to interviewers, but visible to hiring managers and securers. Records. To control data with greater precision, you can follow particular users to view an object, but then restrict the individual object records were allowed to see. For example, record level access allowed interviewers to see and edit their own reviews without exposing the reviews of their interviews. You can manage record level access in the following ways. Organization-wide defaults. Specify the default level of access that users have to each other's records. For example, you can give all employees access to an object called candidate to allow anyone to add a candidate to the database, but you can restrict access to positions so that anyone can see the jobs available, but only the employees with the proper permissions can edit them. Role hierarchies. Open up access to those higher in the hierarchy so they inherit access to all records owned by users below them in the hierarchy. Okay, it's understandable. Sharing rules enable you to make automatic exceptions to organization-wide defaults for particular groups of users to give them access to records they don't own or can't normally see. Sharing rules like role hierarchies are only used to give more users access to records. They can't be restricted when your organization-wide default settings. Manual sharing allows owners of particular records to share them with other users. Although manual sharing isn't automated like organization-wide sharing settings, role hierarchy, or sharing rules. So all these three rules are automatically done, and the last one is only manual one. Okay. Before configuring record access, you might find it useful to answer the following questions. Should your user have open access to every record or just a subset? If it's a subset, what rules would determine whether the user can access them? Okay. However, the fact that you are granting recruiters permissions to create, read, or edit recruiting objects doesn't necessarily mean recruiters are allowed to read or edit every recruiting object record, like individual positions or candidates. This is a consequence of two important concepts in the platform. The permissions on a record are always evaluated according to a combination of object, field, and record level permissions. So, the permission on a record are always evaluated according to a combination of object, field, and record level permissions. When object versus record level permissions conflict, the most restrictive setting wins. That's all. Organization-wide sharing defaults. You can specify the default level of access to record for each type of started or custom object. Standard or custom object, I'm sorry. You can never use organization-wide defaults to grant users more access than they have, though their object permission. You can determine the organization-wide defaults you need for your app by answering the following questions for each object. Who is the most restricted user of this object? Is there ever going to be an instance of this object that this user shouldn't be allowed to see? Is there ever going to be an instance of this object that this user shouldn't be allowed to edit? And here we may see the schema of our answers. Okay. Based on your answers to these questions, you can set the sharing module of that object to one of these settings: private, public read only, public read write, and controlled by parent. As an example, let's go through and answer the list of questions for the position object in the recruiting app. Who is the most restricted user of this object? A member of the standard employer profile. All that they are allowed to do is view a position. Is there ever going to be an instance of this object and that this user shouldn't be allowed to see? No. Also, the values for the minimum and maximum pay are hidden from standard employees. They're still allowed to view all position records. Is there ever going to be an instance of this object that this user should be allowed to edit? Yes, standard employees aren't allowed to edit any position record. Set organization-wide sharing defaults. Now that you've read about org-wide defaults, you are ready to set some. So you need to go to a quick find box, then select sharing settings, click edit in the organization-wide defaults area. For each object, select the default access you want to use. Recall the question you answered in the previous section to help you figure out which default access setting is most appropriate to allow employees at high levels in the role hierarchy to access records automatically. Select grant access using hierarchies for any custom object that doesn't have default access of controlled by parent. By default, Salesforce user hierarchies, like a row hierarchy, to automatically grant records access to users above the record owners in the hierarchy. Setting an object to private makes those records visible only to record owners and users above them in the role hierarchy. If you want to enable access to record for users above the record owner in a hierarchy for custom object, use the grant access using hierarchies checkbox. If you want to enable access to records for user above the record owner in the hierarchy for custom objects, use the grant access using hierarchy checkbox. Do remember this tree of hierarchy, for example, the whole organization, then for example, CEO, etc. So all the people under the CEO will be given this access to records if this object will have the grant access using hierarchy checkbox. If you deselect grant access using hierarchies, user Users that are higher in the role hierarchy don't receive automatic access. So, for example, what will be higher than CEO? For example, will the CEO have this grant access using hierarchy checkbox in his objects? It is very interesting to look through. Now we have a quiz. Field level security allows you to restrict access to certain fields on object records, set passwords on specific fields, make information harder to find, prevent a group of users from accessing and modifying specific objects. Field level security. Let's go back to the field level security and find the answer. You can use field level security to restrict access to certain fields, even for objects a user has access to. For example, you can make the salary field in a position object invisible to interviewers, but visible to hiring managers and recruiters. Okay. Now we will see what to select. Once again, field level security allows you to restrict access to certain fields on object records, set passwords on specific fields, make information harder to find, prevent a group of users from accessing and modifying specific objects. I divide my opinion between A and D. What do you think? Restrict access to certain fields on object records, or prevent? I think prevent a group of users from accessing and modifying specific objects. Later we will see. You can manage record level access in your organization using organization-wide defaults, role hierarchies, sharing rules, manual sharing, all of the above. It seems to me that all of the above. You can manage record level access. Now let's just look through the record level security. So I think such is the way. All of above. Ha ha ha. The first is not right. Let's check the first one. Restrict access I was thinking about. Yeah, we win. Thank you for this long lesson, but together we understood the seed, and I hope that a wonderful free tree of knowledge will grow up from the seed. See you soon. Bye bye.